Hello, thank you so much for tuning in to Dialogues and Diplomacy today. It is truly an honor to introduce our speaker, Nazanin Ansari. Nazanin Ansari is an Iranian British journalist who is the managing editor of Kayhan London and Kayhan Life, one of the most well-known and influential Persian language as well as English publications outside of Iran. In addition to her editorial work, she has contributed significantly to major media news outlets such as CNN, International, BBC, Sky News, and Al Jazeera. She has also served as the president of the Foreign Press Association in London, where she has helped international journalists reporting on global affairs. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy this conversation. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. It is truly a privilege to welcome Nazanin Ansari to this conversation. You guys just heard her biography, and I just wanted to add that at a moment when access to reliable information about Iran is both urgent and complex, her journalism has really played a vital role in helping international audiences understand what's going on in the country and also understand the region in general. I'm really grateful that she is helping us begin this series. And so to begin, I would love to start with a simple question. One word, if you had to choose one word to describe the current state of the world, what would it be and why?
It would be mayhem because you've got an active war going on, you've got regional instability, you have, inside Iran, you have domestic unrest and crackdown at the same time. You have, again, economic collapse, you have information warfare, operational chaos, you've got diplomatic efforts and, diplomatic chaos. So altogether, there's a lot of wreckage on the ground and certainly a lot of smoke and dust in the air.
Right. And before we turn to the present moment, I just wanted to ask about your own path. Could you share with us where you were born and how your early experiences really shaped you to your career and where you are now?
I was born in Tehran, Iran. In those 25 years of Iran's golden age, as it has come to known, that's when I grew up in Iran. I went to an international school. We were actually the pilot project for international baccalaureate. And I
Oh,
think I'm talking about that because it really shaped my way of looking and assessing history and current events. I majored in history, Middle Eastern history, but at the same time, we were taught to read between the lines, and we were taught two kinds of histories when
mm,
we're studying the Cold War. One was the Western way of thinking, and then the other one was the revisionist
right.
looking at history. But at the same time, given Iran, and as you know, we Iranians, our family histories go back to many, many years.
Yeah.
Mine goes back to, at least the ones that I was told by my grandmothers, back to when, Russia basically took the area of where my ancestors
Yeah.
used to live, and those were the Caucasus back in the 1800s, the First and Second Russo-Prussian War. So
Okay.
it is after that that they moved to Iran. And you had the first elements, the constitutional revolution, the
Right.
Qajar dynasty, the elements, the genesis of the leftist movement, but also my grandmothers, they both knew, they read the Quran and they knew it by heart. But my parents were very secular, and my family were always civil servants and ready to serve the country. So it is that shared history of knowing the tradition with the modernity, with what is, you read in history textbooks and what is a lived experience. So
Mm.
I think that is all in all that has given me, the view, at least from how I have placed myself in the context of Iran and how I can serve Iran and the international community.
I love that. That's beautiful. And I think just going off of this theme of history, I was really interested to learn about the Strait of Hormuz. And I think that's a huge part of the dialogue and the conversation that's going on even today with Trump and talking about how France can get access to their oil in a different way. And I think now it's becoming the main headline with the Iran war. But I think a lot of people don't recognize the Strait of Hormuz has such a name that traces back to our own tradition of Iranian tradition and Ahura Mazda and the Zoroastrian tradition. And I was wondering, when you look at it through that lens, how do you think we should understand the historical and the cultural significance of the legacy when we think about the Strait's role and the geopolitical strategy that it plays today?
Well, you put your finger right on it. You know, it's historical. Our area goes back to thousands of years. In effect, if you visit Bahrain, Bahrain has a very, intense history that goes back to millennia. And one part of it is that part of the Persian period. You've got the Portuguese period. What I am trying to say is that Iran has been in that part of it has been our backyard. It has been
Yeah.
part of our history and our essence. And how you see it today is very interesting from a geostrategic and political decision making and misreading of the atmosphere. And this is where I want to come back to the miscalculation of the Islamic Republic and the Revolutionary Guards. For the longest time, they've always said that, they have looked at the Arab states of the Persian Gulf as those that can always, accept what the Islamic Republic does because they are stronger.
Exactly.
And for the longest time, those countries are neighboring countries. For example, and I'll give you one small example which can
Please.
actually crystallize the
Yeah.
state, is that Kehan, London, was not allowed to distribute in those countries, even though we thought that we were all on the
Wow.
same side.
Yeah.
And why is that? And I was told, oh, we're such small countries, and we cannot put, put the wrong foot forward because the Islamic Republic is strong and it's the
Yeah.
IRGC. They will create. We
Wow.
are small, and they can come and invade us. Then that's what actually, and there's a quote in Shakespeare, I think Hamlet, security is man's worst enemy. And that's what was, I
That's what
think,
happened.
IRGC's,
Right.
worst enemy because they thought they had it all. And for the
Right.
longest time, they were, threatening the Hormuz Straits, thinking that if they close it down, our neighboring countries will bow down
Yeah.
because their tourist industry will be affected, their oil, the oil passage will be affected. But that is when the wrong move they made, and they started attacking them. And this time they didn't back down, the Arab states of the Persian
Exactly.
Gulf.
Exactly. And on this theme of the government and the IRGC specifically, I've heard a lot about the fact that people are even questioning if Mojtaba is even alive since we haven't seen his face or anything. And of course, that they've said he's injured and gravely injured. So I don't think that he would be showing his face right now, especially for security reasons. But I was wondering in general, do you think that this could possibly be the last Ayatollah that we see in Iran? And if so, does that mean that there could be a military regime next, especially because of how strong the IRGC is and how young people start? They start around 12 years old, and how it's become truly such a big part of Iranian society, unfortunately.
Well, what we are seeing is actually a dead man walking. And I don't, not only has the era of the absolutist rule of the Islamic jurisprudence ended, but we are seeing the IRGC losing its, lifeline.
Hmm.
Although on the face of it, they come across as, very we are sending missiles out. They're threatening the United States, Western corporations in the region that we will attack you. But no, this is an IRGC, and this is the Islamic Republic way of dealing with things, being a bully. And this is, I mean, if you study the basic attributes of a psychopath, this has been a psychopathic regime,
100%.
and it is acting as a psychopathic regime. And until the end, it will throw its hands and feet about and try to deceive and divert. But, once we go back to Persian history and our Persian culture, light
Chemistry.
will win over darkness.
100%, 100%. And I just wanted to ask you because in the past podcasts that you've done and talks that I've listened to, you really emphasize on the Iranian constitution and have so much education on that. And for me, that's not something that we really recognize in our classes when we talk about foreign policy in the news. How do you think it's important to dissect the Iranian constitution, and how important is it to understanding where we are today and where we can be in the future?
Well, this is what I got thanks to Georgetown University and my master's degree, which was in comparative politics.
Okay.
And in those days, basically, the Soviet Union was still in existence.
Right.
And I did a comparative, my degree was in comparative politics and the Middle East, Soviet Union and the Middle East and
Mhm.
international relations. And so, one of those elements, one of the things that we always had to study were the constitutions and go back and look at and compare. And that's why constitutions are important. The legal
Right.
framework is important because it explains to you the nature of the state that you are examining.
Mm,
And
100%.
the Islamic Republic, I mean, it is from the Islamic Republic, the original constitution that came with the Islamic Revolution, which was under Khomeini.
Right.
It changed with Khomeini and it became an
Exactly.
absolutist version of it. So
100%.
all social policies and social liberties, if you read it, and that's where the deception comes. We all have it all, but it has to be in accordance with religious interpretation. And who gets to interpret what that Islam is? It's this cult.
Exactly.
So that's why we are where we are.
Okay, that makes sense. And talking about constitutions and plans, what do you personally think about the 15-point plan? What do you think about how Trump is dealing with everything? I'd love to just hear your perspective because you've really worked on it through so many years.
Well, at the end of the day, the 15 point plan, when you break it down, it comes down again to the three basic points,
Yeah,
which is no nuclear, no missile, and no proxies. And
exactly.
this is the least that it is. These are very simple. If that for the Islamic Republic to accept,
Yeah.
only three: no missiles, no nuclear, and no
No
proxies.
proxies.
But they cannot. They cannot. I mean, if Mr. Trump wanted to be more difficult, he would put in human rights in it. He didn't even put in human rights in it,
Exactly.
and still they cannot. So it again tells you that the fear that they have is that any kind of change will be their end. So it is just like in again we go back to Persian culture and Persian mysticism. When a tree is very hard trunk. If the wind comes,
Right.
it can break the trunk.
Right.
But with a willow, it will,
This way.
just flow,
Exactly.
sway, And these people, they're such ideological zealots and so scared inside them. They are scared people.
I
That's why
mean,
you see them like
yeah,
this.
they have
And
nowhere to go after
they have
that
nowhere to go. And that's why for them, death is easier than
than
life.
this. 100%. And when we're talking about the proxies too, do you see a situation where I know Hezbollah today and Hamas and a few of the other proxies that they had, even with everything that happened in Syria recently, their axis of resistance has been weakened detrimentally and has been weakened a lot compared to the past few years. What role do you think the Houthis could possibly play, since they have a very unique role with the Strait of Hormuz? But do you think they're gonna play any role in the next few weeks?
Well, the theater of operations sort of probably might move to the Red Sea and elsewhere,
Yeah.
but it will bring in other powers. Japan, in the Southeast Asia. I mean, it's so whatever they do, they will create chaos. But at the end of the day, you have to pay attention that all of these moves is because they're losing their force inside. They don't have, they're bringing Hashad al-Shabi to Iran.
Mm.
Um, what does that mean? They don't have enough forces on the ground there. They're
Exactly.
recruiting 12-year-olds. What does that mean? It's
Exactly.
because they don't have enough forces.
100%.
So these are marks of weakness rather than threats.
Exactly. And then one of my last questions, I just kind of want to ask you about the US policymakers. When we talk about weaknesses and signals of weaknesses, what do you think the policymakers and even students like myself and people in the Iranian diaspora should be really watching the most closely right now, whether to see if the situation is going to stabilize or if it's going to deteriorate further? What do you think are indications that could showcase one or the other?
Well, the indications are that this regime, it's more than a month since Khamenei has been killed, and they still haven't been able to bury him. They've appointed Moshtaba, he's either dead or which means that they have no one and they want to be
Exactly.
able to continue based on an AI model or a cardboard model or a hidden imam model.
Exactly.
And Also the divisions within the Islamic regime. It is the divisions within the establishment between the IR, some of the IRGC that you see, like you hear from Ghalibaf, who's not even admitting that he's negotiating, or Mr. Araqchi, they're not even admitting.
Amazing.
They say, "Oh, we are receiving messages, but we are not negotiating."
Yeah.
What I mean, come on. That's another thing of this regime.
Right.
They're never truthful and sincere. And Bazargan, Pezeshkian,
Pezeshkian. Yeah.
Pezeshkian's son, actually, who's his advisor, has been tweeting, and that you can tell that after his father. Made some conciliatory remarks.
Yeah.
He
Exactly.
had a call from another IRGC leader. You have to toe the line.
Right.
So it is mayhem. It is
It's
mayhem
amazing.
inside them, and it
And
is a
unfortunately for
tough
the
place to
Iranian
be.
people, yeah, for the Iranian people,
And
it's truly so hard.
yes, no, the Iranian people, I bow my head to
Me
those
too.
who are inside
Yeah.
and to the youth of Iran who have kept the fighting going and who are not losing hope. For us outside, we are, many in the diaspora, of course, is united. You can see them
Of
on the
course.
streets in Washington. You saw them last
Yeah.
weekend
It's been exciting.
around the capitals
Yeah.
and on Twitter, social media. They're very active, but at the same time, there are those. Who try to say, no, this basically go back to the old model of uh, our infrastructure is being destroyed. These are the same people who are now crying about the infrastructure and trying
Exactly.
to victimize themselves. Where were they when at the time when I left Iran, half of the Caspian Sea belonged to Iran,
Yeah.
50%, half to the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union broke up. We ended up with 13%. They took our share, gave
Exactly.
it to the all newly born countries.
Everywhere
So
else.
why didn't they care about it then? Why didn't they care about it when they gave so much, when they diverted so much funds to the proxies and there was a reason back in even before December that
Mhm.
when there was a polling done by the student polling agency run by the Supreme Cultural Revolution
Yeah.
Council, only 92% of Iranians were unhappy with the situation. Now
They
they are
published as well.
waiting. Yes, they are worried. What are they worried? And this is what I hear from those, not only those who were pro-intervention to save the Iranians, armed protesters, but those who were against the war. And this is very interesting
Mm.
because those who were against the war and now they see the situation, they're saying, "We hope Mr. Trump." And we hope this regime falls and the war goes until it falls. Because if it stays behind, you know what it will be left with? It will be left with, first of all, we didn't have a government or a governing structure before that's
Before,
why we had,
exactly.
yeah, the
Yeah.
January protests. No water, no environment, no electricity, no economy.
Right.
No. So now they are worried that if even elements of this regime stay behind, they've proven for 47 years they can't govern the country. What makes
Exactly.
them think that they can govern it
They can
better?
continue.
And yes, and the reparations, the amount of reparations that they have to pay to all this for all this destruction in the region that they have caused. So everyone wants them gone.
Yeah,
Everyone wants them gone,
I agree.
except probably, and they themselves probably want to be martyrs and not to live and see the destruction
Of
that they have
everything
left
around them
behind.
that they've made.
Yes.
Exactly. Okay, I think that's a great way to end. Thank you so much. I just kind of wanted to ask one more question to end it on a lighter note. But when you talk about the Iranian diaspora and what we can do for the Iranian people, what would you say, if you could say in a few sentences, how we can continue to give them support and love and light through the fact that we have one of the most beautiful histories and cultures of civilization, and we really, really all just need light right now? What would you say?
Number one, keep up hope and have faith that light will win over darkness. Number two, know and be sure that there is an alternative. And that alternative is not someone who wants power, but is bearing the responsibility to make sure that he's above politics, that he has a rainbow coalition around him,
Mhm.
and that he has good a head on his shoulders, and he has not strayed from, in his ideas or in his thinking from 1947 for the past 47 years.
7 years, yeah.
And that is that to be able to, for us to transition through this period, and then for the Iranians inside and those Iranians outside to have the chance for once to decide what form of government they have and to open the doors for all this brilliant expertise that is outside of the country and inside of the country
Exactly.
to really, be able
Real.
to give back to Iran what it deserves.
Yes. Thank you so much. It is truly an honor and an inspiration to speak with you today, and I learned so much from this conversation. I hope others did as well. Merci.
And thank you so very much. I forgot to mention his name. It is Reza Pahlavi.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Merci. Thank you.
Bye.